First of all, I'm Carlota. I'm a National Baccalaureate student here in Spain. And thank you all for joining us, first of all. This is Pedro, a judge, and while we wait for the other judge to come, I'll be reminding you about the structure of the debate. So the question, I've got it here, I think. In the current pandemic situation, should the economy be prioritized over health? That's the question that you'll be debating on. Now, these are the envelopes that I'll be using to choose who will be defending the economy and who will be defending health. So, captains from each debate team, will you please unmute yourselves and say hi? Each captain from...
We didn't really pick a captain in our team. That's not what they told us to do, but I mean, I can be the fill-in captain.
Okay, I'm from Hout.
Sorry?
I'm Sasha.
Hi, nice to meet you. So if both teams want to choose an envelope, then we will call it on heads or tails. But if anyone wants to let the other team choose, then that team chooses. So what do you want to do?
I mean, the other team may go ahead if they want.
Okay, so which envelope do you choose?
We would like letter A.
Letter A, okay. So Hout International School will be defending side proposition and
the economy.
Budapest will be defending side opposition. And to remind you, side proposition is in favor of prioritizing the economy and side opposition against prioritizing the economy, just to make things clear. Now, there are predetermined times for each intervention. The first one, the opening from each team is 4 minutes. The affirmative second speech is 3 minutes. Then there are 3 1.5 minute cross-examinations and 1 affirmative rebuttal statement for 3 minutes and 1 affirmative rebuttal statement for 3 minutes, and that's the structure. So side proposition will start every intervention except for the affirmative rebuttal statement, which will be okay, never mind. Each intervention will be started by the affirmative okay, so is the structure clear? Are there any doubts about this?
I have a question about the timing specifically. This is kind of a mess when we had our mock debates in our school. This is why I'm asking. For example, if I don't use all of my 4 minutes, can I just end it early? Or, yeah?
You may end it early, but remember there's a specific time and it's a part of the points that will be taken into account. So that point will be, you won't have that point. And we will give you a warning every time you don't adjust to the timing. So keep in mind that if you have 2 warnings, then you will be taking 2 points of the total score.
All right.
Okay.
One last question. Are we going to be able to see the timer?
Yes. Once the debate begins, you will see the timer instead of our screen. So keep that in mind. And also, each team is allowed to make questions. Now, this is only during the second speech for each team, only during that intervention. that speaker is bound to accept at least one question unless it is made in the last minute, in which case they may consider to refuse it if they don't want to take it. To ask questions, the other team has to raise their hand over Zoom or just raise their hand, whatever is more comfortable. I will interrupt the speaker, and that person may answer the question if they want in that moment or a bit later if it's best. Budapest school, you are under lockdown right now, right?
Sorry?
You're under lockdown?
Yeah, we are.
So that means that between two interventions, you have around 2 minutes roughly to gather up all your evidence and prepare your speech. Since you cannot prepare it together, so that that's the time that you have for preparation. And let me remind you that you have to have your camera on at all times, or else you'll have to leave the meeting. And the first speaker is side proposition. Opening affirmative presentation, 4 minutes. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. So side proposition is going to talk about economy over health.
Economy over health, and side opposition will be defending health over economy.
Oh, okay. So Budapest is opposition, right?
Yeah, we are opposition. We're debating for health.
Okay, so we are health over economy.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Any other doubts before we start? No? All right. So you'll see time. My screen will switch right now. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can. Perfectly.
Okay. Also, a new judge has come in. Just so you know, there are two judges. Pedro, who was here with me before, and Rocío, who will also be judging since the other judge hasn't joined the meeting. Isn't in the waiting room either, so we've made that change. And when the first speaker is ready, go ahead.
Yes, after whenever you're ready.
Please mute yourselves before every intervention. Thank you.
Mute yourself for the
Intervention between you guys.
Okay. That's really switch.
and just say when you're ready.
Give us
I'm
a
ready.
second.
Okay.
Good afternoon, judge and opposition. We will be arguing for that economy should be prioritized over health. Saying this is because if you don't have a good economy, meaning that there will not be enough jobs for people who need this, and this causes a lot of people to not being able to pay for food. If they cannot pay for food, they will automatically be unhealthy. They will also have no money to pay for healthcare, which will also affect the health badly. If you think about it, this means that the health really depends on the economy. If the economy were to worsen, people cannot pay their taxes. If the government does not receive their taxes, they cannot pay for very important things. These things will include healthcare, which is very important. Schools will not be able to be paid for, child supports, which a lot of people do depend on, and unemployment benefits. Not only will people's physical health be affected by this, but also their mental health will suffer from this. Our healthcare is paid for by the government. If the government can no longer afford this due to less taxes coming in, this means that we lose 50% or more of our healthcare funding in countries such as the US and South Africa. If we were to get more taxes, means that we have more money to do stuff, like building bigger facilities for hospitals, so we no longer have to prioritize COVID patients over other patients who need medical help just as much as the COVID patients do. So health is a very important, but we need a strong economy to stay healthy. So in fact, if we prioritize the economy, we prioritize the health. That was it. Thank you.
Can I mute yourself?
Thank you. Let me warn you that you have your first warning for time management. No points have been taken off extra from the judges, and they won't be unless you get another warning. So thank you. Now it's time for the opening presentation from side opposition from Budapest School. So it's 4 minutes whenever you're ready.
All right, I think I'm ready.
Okay.
Healthy citizens are the greatest asset any country can have, as quoted by Winston Churchill. This coronavirus pandemic was a very costly one, not just economically, but in human lives as well. This team believes it's country's moral obligation to take care of the health of its citizens over the economy, because it is just inherently the right thing to do. We are humans and we have to care for each other, especially in times like this. This is not only a moral question, this is, when it comes to professionals, what should be done. The World Trade Organization and the World Health Organization both agree that for the improving of countries and for the return of, well, countries to return to countries as they were pre-pandemic, we need to focus on the health of its citizens. Healthy citizens, well, this team focuses on making sure its citizens are healthy. We are aware that we need to take care of the country economically. However, there are two very important points to take here. Healthy citizens can still have a craving to purchase or to consume and to sell. They're able to work, they are able to fuel the economy as well. So by worrying about health, we worry about the economy as well. And this team truly believes if we really just focus on health, then over time, the economy will go back to as it once was. Second, if we look at previous economic crises, because the current scape of many countries' economies can be considered an economic crisis. If we look at other economic crises throughout history, sure, it takes a lot, decades to return to normal. However, if we look at other humanitarian crises, so ones where the death of people was a big factor, it took way, way longer for countries to return to once they were. This can be other diseases, this can be natural disasters, whatever, but it still takes way longer for a country to recover from a humanitarian crisis than from a healthcare crisis. Additionally, this team really believes in giving the people what the people wants in a democratic fashion. And according to the World Health Forum, 67% of people still want countries and governments to focus on, well, health and making sure everybody gets healthcare and making sure people don't die. Adding on, there's really not an effective way in this group's opinion. However, if the other team has something to say, they may go ahead later. There's not an effective way to make sure the economy keeps going. The United States, as the other team mentioned, tried to take care of the economy way more than many other countries with stimulus checks, with bails for major companies. However, what that led to is still people getting fired, people getting evicted, homelessness rising, unemployment rising, and in the meantime, the rich getting richer. And this is just horrible because it puts everybody in a situation, by focusing on the economy, they manage to put more people into worse situations than they were pre-pandemic. And in the meantime, the rich just got richer. The 20 richest people got 50% richer during the pandemic, which is just in massive numbers that should not be possible. So this team believes for economic, for moral reasons, and for just giving people what they want, we need to take care of the health of citizens and of many different countries instead of worrying about the economy, because in the long run, that's what matters the most.
Thank you. So now it's time for the affirmative second speech from side proposition. Let me remind you, the other team is allowed to make questions during this intervention. If you want to, then just raise your hand over Zoom and I'll give you permission to do so. The other speaker has to accept one question whenever they want. But if it's in the last minute, then they may choose not to answer. So whenever you're ready.
Wait, before moving on, may I have a question?
Yes, go ahead.
So who asked questions now?
Now it's time for side proposition, affirmative second speech. It's 3 minutes. That speaker will be interrupted during their speech and they have to answer the question from the opposite team. So now we have Budapest may ask questions to the Hout team, and in the next intervention, the other way around. Is that clear? Okay. Sign and we will set the time. Please, the speaker from side proposition, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
If we have an unhealthy economy, even after lockdown, we saw that South Africa's poverty went from 30% to 50%. If our economy is weak, after the lockdown, we can't offer more jobs. And with our unemployment already this bad, if our economy is not fixed, people can't afford basic necessities. And if you can't afford basic necessities, healthcare is really out of the question. You said we were trying to reach a pre-pandemic society. If we can get there, even just trying to get there, if we don't have a healthy economy, we cannot afford vaccines. If we don't get vaccines, we can't get back to the pre-pandemic society. And even if we ignore that, what of the lack of mental care? Therapy is expensive, unfortunately. And with the mental health nowadays, with the increase of anxiety and depression, even through lockdown, the increase of depression, the anxiety of the death and all the sickness around us, if we can't afford healthcare, we can't afford mental care. And if we can't afford mental care, we can't go back to a pre-pandemic time if people want to stay inside, if people don't even have that if they're too scared to step outside, if they're too unmotivated to do anything. By putting economy first, we can get vaccines. And sorry, without vaccines, okay. I'm sorry, that's it.
Thank you. You have your second warning, so that's 2 points of the total score. For about the international score.
So you can use it.
Does anybody know any Frederick Haddox? There's someone in the waiting room called Frederick Haddox.
It must be the other Dutch.
No, I'm going to admit them, and
He's our English teacher.
he's your teacher.
Yeah, he's our English.
Hi, is Mr. Haddox with Budapest team?
He's our English teacher. He most likely just wants to spectate us debating and to see how it goes, most likely.
Okay, thank you. So let me remind you, the microphones must be off during the interventions. And now it's time for the negative second speech from side opposition. When you're ready, give us a sign and we will start the timing.
Yeah, I'm ready. All right. First of all, I would like to establish that the health of a nation and the economy of a nation are directly interlinked. This has been established by basically every single previous speaker from both teams. And with that, first, let me establish the definition of economy itself so we understand what we're talking about. The economy is the state of a country or region in terms of production, consumption of goods and services, and the supply of money. Now, knowing that an economy of a country is booming if consumption and production are high and through the roof, and that is only possible if there is a healthy population to consume and produce. And you cannot really have that if the majority of the workforce and indeed people in general are sick. Which leads me to my next point. Of course, pre-pandemic, pandemic society has indeed impacted mental illness and those people and people with who are in need of psychiatrists and psychology, but society doesn't necessarily depend on them, and the economy itself cannot be fixed bang boom bam with that. Like, you can still have private sessions via Zoom, or I don't know, transportation is still possible. I don't know how the situation is regarding travel in South Africa, but I know that in most places you can still go to see your therapist. And this leads me to conclude that, well, not conclude, but to go on to say that there are always extra funds in the economy. It's not like when the economy suffers, the whole thing doesn't immediately crash. The treasury is not going to be completely empty. There will always be extra funds. I mean, just look at Israel. They purchased the vaccine for the entire country, for everything, for the entire population, for billions of dollars, and their economy was also impacted by the pandemic.
Question from the other team.
Yes.
Okay, but if you're saying that you're putting health first and you're saying that people can still go to their mental health expert, but they can't do that if they don't have money here. So if the economy is so poor, then you kind of need to put your economy first to help the healthcare. So my question is that, do you think that putting the health first if people can't afford it, then what are you going to do?
Well, I hate to be Machiavellian here, but sometimes sacrifices do have to be made. And again, I'd like to reference the quote that the previous speaker said, that healthy citizens lead are the greatest asset any country can have. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, affirmative cross-examination from side proposition. When you're ready, give us a sign and we will start the timing.
Can we give it
1.5 minutes, 3 interventions of 1.5 minutes.
Question, maybe ask questions in this 1.5 minutes or no?
No, you're only allowed to make questions during your own intervention, so you can leave them in the open for the other team to answer in the next speech, but not interrupt the speaker.
Very well, thank you.
They're gonna ask you questions. You can't answer them.
So your questions you make notes of.
Okay.
Are you ready? How they spoke?
Yeah, so you guys are asking us questions, right?
Not right now. You can ask questions during your own speech, but you cannot be interrupted.
Okay, so we can ask them.
Oh, so we're asking you questions.
Yes, but they do not have to answer right now, only during the set timing for their own speech. Is it clear? So right now, no one can interrupt the other team. The only questions you can ask, you can leave out in the open, and the other team will answer during their own speech. Is it clear?
Oh wait, so if they ask questions, then when do we answer it?
So, for example, you're giving your speech for 1.5 minutes, and then at the end of your speech, for example, you can make a question for the other team to answer in their next intervention, and then the next team will start like answering that question, and then giving their speech, and at the end making another question for the other team, or something like that. That's what you're meant to do.
So you mean we answer the question at the end of one cross-examination?
I think it's like a conversation. Both they can ask you questions that you will answer on your next intervention. Like it's not directly. They ask and you respond. You can answer those questions on your next turn to speak.
You can answer their questions and it's your turn. Nice, because
yeah, we got
so
it.
we answer the questions in the next crossing, or
Yeah,
in
exactly.
our own cross-examination.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh,
So now during this speech, no one can interrupt the questions during your own speech. Any doubts?
yeah, and during our speech, our cross-examination, then we can also ask them questions, right?
Yes, of course.
Yes, but they do not have to answer in that moment. They will later during their own speech.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay, any other doubts?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, all good, cool, all good.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, we will switch to the camera to the timing and give us a sign and we will start the timing.
Okay, we're ready, let's go. Okay, so obviously we're going for economy. So you guys said that it's the moral obligation to put health first, but if the moral obligation is not the point is that you've got a moral obligation to your country and the people in your country. Obviously you have to put health first, but if people don't have food to eat, how can you put health before that? Obviously, a lot more people are going to die if they're starving than of COVID. At the beginning of our pandemic, we didn't know how high the death toll was going to be, but we knew that people would die if they didn't have food to eat. So that's why a lot of people put their economy first. So what I'm asking you is, why is it the only moral obligation to put health first? Then the next one is, how can you have a healthy population without a good economy? Because here in South Africa, we don't have a brilliant economy. And we knew from the get-go that we didn't have the money to pay for multiple deaths. And hundreds of thousands of deaths were predicted for us. So what we did was we shut down in order to not lose so many thousands of people, because it would cost us more to pay for the health than to close our economy. So what I'm asking you is, how can you have a healthy population without a good economy? Secondly, why is loads of countries are putting their economy first. Loads of countries are putting their economy first, and that's why they're vaccinating. So why is, if they're just putting health first, then they're not so motivated. So thank you.
Thank you. That you went 17 seconds over the timing, so that's another warning for time. Now it's time for the negative second speech. No, excuse me, for the negative cross-examination. The first intervention, 1 minute and 30 seconds. When you're ready.
Yeah, okay. So shall I answer the question that asked after the time ended?
During the 1 minute and 30 seconds, you've got time to answer that question and make your rebuttal for any of their arguments.
Okay, so I can answer their question first and then ask my own question, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, so first of all, I would like to say that prioritizing health doesn't mean to do nothing with economy. Yeah, so we didn't say that we just do nothing with trade, we do nothing with diplomatic relationships, but we do focus on health, because let's see, if there's no health, then there's no healthy workers for each sector. Then if there's no healthy workers for each sector, then how come can the economy be strong? And now I would like to pose question to the first speaker. So so you always emphasize, if you prioritize economy, then health, then it means that you are going to prioritize health as well. So this, for me, this sounds a bit confusing. So I would like the first speaker to, so I would like the Hout Bay team to make some more clearer explanation on what they have just said. Yeah, and also, if they only focus on economy, then it results in a disaster, because that's what they did in America, because they have a disaster previously. Thank you.
Thank you. Affirmative cross-examination, side proposition. It's, again, 1.5 minutes. When you're ready, give us a sign and we will start the time.
Both. You answer his question?
Okay, so now we answer questions and then ask more. Just clarify.
And give more arguments if you want to. You've got time to, during your speech, you can answer those questions and ask more if you want.
Yeah. Okay.
Answer
Answer and ask.
and ask.
Okay, good. Okay, ready? Okay, so what we're saying, we're not saying that, we're saying that overall economy is better to prioritize, because if you're prioritizing your economy, you're not only prioritizing healthcare. We are saying that in your economy, obviously you're going to prioritize healthcare because you do need people to work for you. But what we're saying is that you prioritize your economy because you also need people to have food. You also need people to be able to be okay mentally. We also need people to have transport to get where they need to go. And obviously in lockdown, they didn't really need transport, but your essential workers did need transport. So here in South Africa, we were struggling with getting our essential workers to their work. So that was obviously something that we needed our economy to be strong enough to do, to get our essential workers to their healthcare. So obviously you need different sectors to intertwine together to get where you need to be, and that your economy is going to pay for that. So what we're asking is, why do you think that you only need to prioritize health? Because we're saying that you prioritize health as well as everything else. So also what we're saying is that if you focus on your economy, you are going to improve your healthcare. And no healthy workers obviously means that you're not going to have a strong economy. So that's why we will prioritize your healthcare. But obviously you need a strong economy to have everything done.
Rebecca, that was their question.
Thank you. Now, negative first examination from side opposition, 1.5 minutes.
Okay, I'll be going. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, so when taking into account what is better, health, like people who are not, they don't have proper nutrition, who are starving, or dead people, you have to take into account that this pandemic, it takes lives, and the thing is that when there's studies shown when economy was prioritized, for example, in Vietnam, actually when they focused more on tourism, their health supplies and their healthcare infrastructure was going down, and many people were dying. And when they took a switch, it was much better. Less people were getting infected, less were dying. And that's the thing. If we focus on healthcare, we're also focusing on economy. Many economists have actually said that when focusing on healthcare, we can actually, have healthier patients, less infected. But as a second effect, we can also have a better economy, or like an economy that's stronger after the pandemic. And the thing is that when taking into account, health is something that started this pandemic. It was not like a problem that economy, brought upon us. It's a virus. It's health. So the thing is, health, a virus can only be solved by health. It can't be solved by economy. Otherwise, we're going to be going in circles and circles, and we're going to have people dying, but we're going to have richer countries. How is that going to help?
Now for affirmative cross-examination, side proposition, 1.5 minutes.
You can take your mask off now. Focus on people dying with corona.
Okay, ready? Okay, so you guys are focusing on COVID, obviously, because that is part of healthcare, but what about the rest of the healthcare? Because I know that in Hungary, you guys had a huge problem with your cancer patients because you discharged all your cancer patients, and there were many cases of people dying in their homes because they didn't have the proper equipment. Because you prioritized the COVID. Obviously you needed to, but you kicked out a whole bunch of people who had cancer and they ultimately died of their cancer. So we're saying that economy would obviously help with all of that, and obviously help the people if they have to go home. You need to give them their proper equipment to make them comfortable. So also what we're saying is, you said that the countries will get richer. You shouldn't we got really poor because South Africa got really poor because they prioritized their economy. What we're saying is that they knew that their downfalls, and they knew that if they had many dead people from starvation, that would also be a big problem. It's not only dead people from COVID, and also we had to shut down our country because of people don't have enough money to pay for healthcare, and we don't have enough money for healthcare. So the problem was that we had to put our economy first so that we didn't lose many people. So that does tie in. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, negative cross-examination, side opposition, 1.5 minutes. Whenever you're ready.
David, may I go next, or do you want to talk?
Okay. Yeah.
Who's going?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yep. Okay, since you didn't ask me any questions, I'll just be asking you questions. First of all, I would like to emphasize that our topic is, during the pandemic, should you prioritize economy over health or health over economy? We're talking about during the pandemic. And another thing is that your team should be prioritizing the economy. But I'm also hearing you're saying things like you're prioritizing healthcare, you're prioritizing everything. Well, if you can prioritize everything, then if you can, I suggest you to elect for president, and I will vote for you, honestly, if for prioritizing everything. But you cannot prioritize everything. You have to prioritize something over the other. And I would like to ask you something. So you guys asked our team that if we don't prioritize the economy, how can people afford therapist sessions? So I would like to ask you that, if we don't prioritize the economy, does that mean that all the citizens will go broke and everybody is poor and no one can afford therapist sessions or food or basic necessities? Because if we saying that not prioritizing the economy doesn't mean that we don't do anything about the country's economy. We completely ignore it. Like, we don't give any food to the citizens, or we don't do anything about it. We are still doing things about it. It's just we are not prioritizing it. And it doesn't mean that if we don't prioritize it, it doesn't mean that everybody is going to be poor and there will be no food, no therapist sessions available for anyone. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So, affirmative rebuttal statement from side proposition. It's 3 minutes. Hout International School. You've got your final statement. In this intervention, you may summarize everything that's happened during the debate, make your position clear, and you do not have to give any more arguments or make any more questions. This is your last intervention. Are there any doubts or?
Okay, yeah, we're ready. I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, so South Africa is a very poor country, and you said that everyone would go starving if we didn't prioritize so people here did go starving, but we did obviously help, but we did that through the economy. We did that through taxes. We had a COVID relief fund that mainly went to the people who were starving, because many countries put the economy first, and it didn't really work out. But what we're saying is that if there is a next time, and currently, you do need to put your economy first, but with changes. The US put the economy first, but they shut down too late. And therefore they shut down too late. But they're seeing how much money they've spent because they didn't shut down earlier. So what we're saying is, ideally, you need to shut down early, because then you can open up earlier. And you can afford, you need a strong economy to pay for the vaccines. You need a strong economy to pay for the healthcare. we don't have that. In South Africa, we don't have a very strong economy. We don't have enough money for vaccines. That's why we have barely any vaccines at the moment. In Hungary, I know for a fact you guys have vaccinated almost half of your population already, but that is because you had the money and the resources to pay for those vaccines. You need a strong economy to pay for those vaccines. What we're saying is the economy is the underlying thing. Without your economy, you don't have healthcare. Without your economy, you have starving people in the street. Without your economy, you have nothing. Okay, so basically what we're saying is that you need a strong economy to get your people to work. Obviously, you need a strong economy for everything. You need a strong economy to make people healthy. So what we're saying is that if you prioritize your economy, then you can prioritize healthcare. But you can't prioritize your economy. You can't prioritize healthcare if you haven't already prioritized your economy. So that's what we're saying. We're saying that, for example, I think Taiwan, they shut down early and they prioritized different things to what the rest of the world prioritized, and they went about it in the right way. And they've been able to open up. They've vaccinated so many people because they prioritized their economy, because they knew that if they did vaccinate people, they could open up their economy. As we can see in America, they're starting to reopen because they prioritize their economy, because they're vaccinating. Obviously, they are having problems. There are obviously going to be problems within that, but without a strong economy, you don't have healthcare, and people will go hungry if there isn't a strong enough economy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Negative rebuttal statement and from side opposition. This is your last intervention.
Okay.
All right, David, you go talk to him.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm ready. Okay. So for the last 3 minutes, I heard a lot of healthcare, but what we are debating on is health over economy, not healthcare over economy. Healthcare is only a part of health. And just like you're always saying that if there's no economy, then there's no healthcare. Well, I agree with that, but healthcare is not health. Health is like how people act, and like health helps people. And health is more important than economy, because if there's no health, then there's no people supporting the economy. There's no people producing, there's no people consuming, because the economy of a country is the state of the country in terms of its consumption and production. And if there's no healthy people doing that, then where is the economy come from? Well, if there's no health, why is there healthcare? And I would like also to ask a question. I would like to rebuttal to what the first speaker said in the beginning. She said that if we don't prioritize the economy, there won't be enough jobs for people. Well, I want to ask you, what do you think is more important? Having more empty jobs available, but no healthy people working, doing the jobs? Or having less job opportunities available, but all the jobs are filled with healthy workers? Yeah.
Thank you. You have your first time warning, but it's not with any repercussion over your final score. And
Excuse me. In the PDF, we read that the rebuttal stage, the 3-minute rebuttal stage, is where you ask questions and the other people answer the questions.
no, that's your affirmative second speech or negative second speech.
Yeah.
This is the final intervention, which is 3 minutes. You got it in the document that we sent.
Because in the document we read that the rebuttal stage is you need to ask questions, and questions shall not exceed 15 seconds. So.
One minute, we're going to check the document.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So there's been a misunderstanding with the document, but it won't impact your final score, so it's okay. We will specify later if you go on to the final, we will specify before the debate. So that was the final intervention, and that concludes the debate for both teams. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for participating in Intersect and in this competition. The scores, we will share the scores once we've got them. Both judges here are very pleased with your intervention and your work. So thank you very much for participating.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, bye. Have a nice day.
Right, goodbye. Have a nice day for everyone in the room.